right, so you can begin my time. Good evening. Certainly an honor to be here tonight to present to you what I believe to be the truth of God's Word. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you for coming and studying the Word of God with us. Thank you to all the pastors and ministers that are here tonight. I especially want to thank my friend Pastor Jonathan Neely and the First Pentecostal Church of Lepanto for their hospitality in hosting this debate. Lepanto, Arkansas, home of the Terrapin Derby, if you didn't happen to see that on the way in. The proposition tonight states, the scriptures teach that a woman's required covering is her long uncut hair. Although we are not specifically dealing with the men tonight, I do want to point out at the outset of this debate that neither Brother Hayes nor myself are in any danger of violating 1 Corinthians 11:14. If a man has long hair, it is a shame unto him. We both identify more with Leviticus 13:40. The man whose hair has fallen from his head is bald, yet is he clean. So in defining the terms of my proposition, when I say the scriptures, I mean the 66 books of the Bible. By teach, I mean they inform or instruct. By woman, and this is a term that definitely needs identified and defined in the 21st century. By woman, I mean a human female having two X chromosomes. It doesn't matter what you think you identify yourself with. If your DNA has two X chromosomes, then by nature you are a woman. By required, I mean that it is something that is essential or indispensable. By covering, I mean that which covers the head as described in 1 Corinthians 11. And by long uncut hair, I mean that a woman allows her hair to grow long without cutting it. And before I get into my affirmative arguments, I want to answer the questions that Brother Hayes has asked me before the debate. Number one, he said, can you cite any references from historical Christian literature dating before 1850 that supports your understanding of the woman's apostolically required covering being uncut hair? Well, the proposition tonight states the scriptures teach. And I'm really here to discuss what the scriptures teach. Our doctrine is based upon the scriptures, not what history may or may not say, and we can certainly talk about history if we need to. Number two, since your proposition states the scriptures teach, can you produce one Bible text that requires a Christian woman's hair to remain uncut? 1 Corinthians 11:6, 1 Corinthians 11:15. Number three, would you please explain the meaning of the word shorn as used in 1 Corinthians 11:6? The word shorn means to cut short the hair. So somebody may ask, why would you even debate this subject, or why is this issue important? The reason why this issue is important is because the head covering is in direct relationship to headship, as Paul laid the foundation in 1 Corinthians 11:3. He said, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. The word head, or kephale in Greek, has reference to someone that is in a superior rank, a chief or a leader. The word head refers to someone who is in authority over someone else. It's used this way many times in the Septuagint Old Testament and the Greek New Testament. That's why the proposition says that it is a required covering, because the head covering, whatever it is in direct relationship to our submission to our head, and specifically in the case of the woman, her submission to her husband. So in 1 Corinthians 11:4, Paul said, every man praying or prophesying having his head covered dishonors his head. The phrase having his head covered is more of a commentary than a translation. The phrase having his head covered in Greek is kata kephales ekon, which literally translated is having something down from the head. So you'll notice that there is no direct object given in this verse. What that something is not specifically stated in this text. So the phrase kata kephales ekon in and of itself does not tell us specifically what it is that a man is not to have down from his head. 1 Corinthians 11:5, Paul said, but every woman that prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. The word uncovered in Greek is akatakaluptos, from a meaning not, and katakalupto, which means wholly covered or completely covered. So the word akatakaluptos means not fully covered. And once again, the term uncovered in and of itself does not tell us what that covering material is. However, the term or the phrase to uncover the head is a biblical idiom that refers to hair. Notice in Numbers 5:18 that a woman who was accused of adultery, the priest would set the woman before the Lord and uncover the woman's head. The word uncovered here in the Hebrew is parah. Gesenius' Hebrew lexicon, page 690, says that parah comes from the idea of loosening or casting off a garment, but he defines the word specifically as to make naked, for example, the head, Numbers 5:18, especially by shaving. Marvin Vincent states that among the Jewish women convicted of adultery, they had their hair shorn. So you see the idea of an uncovering of the head relates to a person's hair. Another example is Leviticus 10:6 concerning the death of Nadab and Abihu. Moses told Aaron and his younger sons, "Do not uncover your heads, neither render your clothes." We know from other passages that it was common practice in the Old Testament for a man to rend his clothes and shave his head when in mourning. Notice Job 1:20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head. And that is what Aaron and his sons were told not to do. Don't uncover your heads, don't rend your clothes. So from Old Testament usage, the idea of uncovering the head refers to hair. Now the King James Version says in 1 Corinthians 11:5, "For that is even all one as if she were shaven." However, I want you to notice from the Greek text that there is no as if statement of comparison. The text literally says, "For it is one and the same having been shaven." As a matter of fact, that's what the New King James translates it. It translates it as one and the same. In other words, for a woman to be uncovered is identical to being shaven. We're not talking about something that is simply comparable or similar to. We're talking about something that is one and the same or identical to being shaven. What is it that is shaven? It's hair. The only way that uncovered can be one and the same or identical to being shaven is for the covering material to be hair. Notice how this verse is translated in other Bible versions. The Common English Bible says, "It is the same thing as having her head shaved." The Holman Christian Standard Bible says, "Since that is one and the same as having her head shaved." The New International Version says, "It is the same as having her head shaved." The Concordant Literal Version says, "For it is one and the same as being shaven." The only way uncovered can be one and the same with shaven is if uncovered has reference to a woman's hair. 1 Corinthians 11:6, Paul said, "For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered." The phrase, "let her even be shorn," is not a command for a woman to cut her hair short. Rather, Paul is saying that this is the logical conclusion or what consistency demands if a woman is not wholly covered. In other words, Paul is making a logical argument. He says if you're going to do A, then you might as well do B, which is more severe than A. And since it's a shame to do B, don't even do A. So if a woman is not fully covered, then she might as well cut her hair short. But since it's a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. So once again, the context of a woman being covered is dealing with that which can be shorn or shaven, and that is hair. 1 Corinthians 11:6 says, "For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered." The phrase "but if" is not a question of whether or not it is a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven. Rather, it's a rhetorical statement of fact saying that it is indeed a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven. The phrase "but if" in Greek is ade. Bauer Danker Lexicon says that this is a marker of condition. existing in fact or hypothetical. A.T. Robertson's Word Pictures, commenting on this passage, says that a day refers to a condition assumed to be true. For example, the phrase a day is also used in Matthew 6:30, wherefore if God so clothe the grass of the field, shall he not so much more take care of you also? Meaning, since God clothes the field, will he not also take care of us? Jesus wasn't questioning whether or not God clothes the field. He was saying that since this is true, he was presenting it as something that is true. Well, it's the same phrase as in 1 Corinthians 11:6. Since it is a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven. As a matter of fact, that is exactly how 1 Corinthians 11:6 is translated in several versions. Notice the easy-to-read version. But it is shameful for a woman to cut off her hair or to shave her head. The English Standard Version. But since it is disgraceful for a wife to cut off her hair or to shave her head. The Good News Bible. And since it is a shameful thing for a woman to shave her head or cut her hair. Orthodox Jewish Bible. But since it is in fact a thing of shame for an isha to be shorn or to be shaved. So notice that Paul said that if a woman is not covered, that she might as well be shorn. The word shorn is from the Greek word kairo, which means to cut the hair short. The word is used most often for shearing the wool off of a sheep. Thayer, page 343, says that kairo in 1 Corinthians 11:6 absolutely refers to cutting short the hair of the head. Now watch this. Paul's logical argument of consistency takes us from one act to a more severe act. If you're going to do A, then you might as well do B. B is a more severe act than A, so don't even do A. We might tell our children, if you're going to steal a piece of bubble gum, then you might as well rob a bank. See, we're making a logical argument of consistency. One thing to a more severe thing. So if you're going to steal a piece of bubble gum, well, then you might as well rob a bank. And robbing a bank, since that's a felony, don't even steal a piece of bubble gum. So Paul is saying, if a woman is not covered, she might as well cut her hair short. Cutting the hair short is the more severe act. And notice that it is in the context of being covered that Paul is talking about that which can be shorn or shaven, which is hair. A woman's hair is the context of the passage. In order to have equal relationship on both sides of the antithesis, both the covering and that which is shorn must be of the same material, and that material is obviously hair, that which can be shorn or shaven. So if cutting short is the more severe act of a logical conclusion, then it stands to reason that the less severe act of a woman not being covered refers to a woman trimming her hair or cutting it any length. And by the same token, let her be covered then refers to a woman not cutting her hair at all. So the context of 1 Corinthians 11:6 would be this. For if the woman trims or cuts her hair any length, she might as well cut it short. But since it's a shame for a woman to be cut short or shaven, let the woman not cut her hair at all. Everything in the context deals with a woman's hair. We have equal relationship on both sides of the antithesis. We have the natural flow of the original act that leads to the logical consistency of something more severe. And Paul's acknowledgement that since the more severe act is indeed a shame or a disgrace to a woman, that she should not even participate in the first act. This argument is both logical and sound. Therefore, my proposition is affirmed that the scriptures teach that a woman's required covering is her long, uncut hair. Finally, in 1 Corinthians 11:13, Paul said, "Judge in yourselves. Is it proper for a woman to pray unto God uncovered?" This is the same Greek word Paul used in verse 5. This is a rhetorical question that Paul assumed the readers would commonly understand. So in response to his own rhetorical question concerning whether or not it is proper for a woman to pray unto God uncovered, Paul answered with a statement concerning hair. Does not even nature teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a shame unto him. But if a woman has long hair, it's a glory to her, for her hair is given to her for a covering. Get that. The climax of Paul's teaching as to the properness of a woman praying to God uncovered is that long hair is given to the woman for a covering. Thus a woman's long hair fulfills the injunction of let her be covered. When a woman refrains from cutting or trimming her hair, she fulfills the apostolic biblical mandate of having